Good eve. I am here on special assignment to explain all of the planets in retrograde right now. And I'm going to do that in the way that only I know how to do, which is with tarot cards. So, surprise, surprise, each planet correlates to a card. And so I'm going to talk about each archetype and then hopefully explain a little bit more about how to integrate this into your life or what this means. So, first planet, first of all, retrograde. Forgot that's where I wanted to start. So, retrograde is a planet, instead of moving forward on their orbit, they're moving backwards on their orbit. At a base level, that's what it means. It gets a really bad rap because of Mercury retrograde, which people blame all sorts of things on, some of which actually have pertinence to Mercury retrograde and some of which do not. You cannot blame being an asshole on Mercury retrograde. You just can't. Okay? Okay. That happened on Vanderpump Rules last week. So he actually said Gatorade in retrograde. Mercury's in Gatorade. And it was pretty stupid, but funny. Anyways, so retrograde means that the planet is moving backwards. As above, so below. If a planet is moving backwards, then we're moving backwards too, in that we are evaluating our recent past or our distant past, or maybe even a past life during this time. And instead of moving forward, which is really the way that our society is set up, to continuously push forward, hustle, it is actually urging us to reflect instead of moving forward. When you move forward in a retrograde, you may likely have to retrace your steps. Mercury retrograde is a great example of when you're signing a lease on a new home. If you're signing during Mercury retrograde, it's not the best time because it rules contracts and communication and things like that. So you may have something go wrong with that particular contract that you signed if you signed it during that time. So that's just a really good example of a retrograde. It doesn't mean you can't move with your life and continuously put one foot in front of the other. Of course, we're doing that. But you, with certain areas of your life, you should be more reflective instead of forward moving. So the first one that's in retrograde right now is Venus, which correlates to the Empress. And you're in luck because I just wrote a blog post about the Empress for Taurus season, which is May this month. And it lives on my website, which is highpriestessofbrooklyn.com/blog. So without telling you too much, because I want you to go and read it, the Empress is all about creation, sensual beauty, and love. So we've learned about Venus in ancient Roman times, in Egyptian times. Every civilization, Greek, every civilization has a Venus goddess of love. And so this is personal love, you and I, or you and your partner, and it's in Gemini right now. So you've probably been seeing that the retrograde means that an ex is going to come back into your life and want to chat with you. Now, because Gemini Venus is all about chatty, witty banter, and that's what you find attractive, that intellect, that adaptability within a conversation. But it doesn't always mean that somebody from a past life is going to come into your current life. It could mean that you evaluate things that you created in your past or things that you find to be beautiful, and you figure out how you might be able to modernize them into your current aesthetic. You might think about different ways in which you can bring past loves of your closet back into the rotation, things like that. So this is in retrograde. I am going to go through each planet in retrograde and then give you an example of how to apply all of them. So that's the first, and that's a personal planet. The personal planets being Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. So one of the personal planets is affecting us in retrograde a little bit more than the others that are affecting a generation, but they're all still impactful. So the second one that's in retrograde right now is the World. So this is Saturn. Saturn is the taskmaster of the zodiac and rules work up to a successful completion. So rules, when it comes through in the world, it's all about what have you done so far? Are you reaping the benefits and the reward? Or is this a time to evaluate where you've gotten so far? And if you care that you've gotten this far, if this is something that you really wanted, and if not, this would be the time to evaluate it because you've kind of gotten to, let's say, the top of the corporate ladder, or you've built the house at that point when you get the world in your reading. So Saturn in retrograde, it's all about reevaluating the structures of your life. Pretty plain and simple. When Mercury comes, when Saturn comes into, we all talk about Saturn returns. Saturn return happens about every 30 years for people, and give or take a little bit. Usually Saturn comes, pulls the rug out from underneath you and says, is your life the way that you want it? Do you want to put that couch back where it was after I just pulled out the rug? Yes or no? So you're really evaluating each piece of your life and the structures of it and if they make sense for you anymore. What happens when you're 30? I mean, you like wake up one day and you're like, oh my God, is my career right? Is the person sleeping next to me right? Like all of the things. You go through a lot of different emotions probably during your Saturn return. A lot of people like buy a house, have a kid, you know, all of the major things happen kind of around that age, or things can happen around that age. So Saturn's in retrograde too. Jupiter is also in retrograde, and Jupiter is much more fun. Jupiter is the wheel of fortune, the giver of gifts, luck, and expansion. So Jupiter being in retrograde means that we're evaluating the way in which we receive good luck, gifts, good fortune. So that one is in particular areas of your life. Kind of Jupiter helps to like uphold if a certain area is going well, like to continue to give you good luck there. And it'll be in particular houses, and that'll rule what it's pertaining to in your particular chart. And again, I'll give you an example in a bit, but that's also in retrograde. And then Pluto is in retrograde too, and that's the Judgment card. So this is all about reckoning with the past. I kind of alluded to like some are big things and some are small things. Pluto's a big thing. Pluto is like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like the base level need, like, or base 2 levels. So things like your relationship to your relationships in general, how you relate to other people, how you relate to money. Do you have blockages there? So like those are big things that it's almost like a reckoning. You need to have revelations, deep transformative understanding through a Pluto retrograde. So I'm going to take you through an example. And let's use money because that's a good one to use. So we're in this lifetime. You potentially had many, many lifetimes before this. I won't go too far into that, but that's just truly what I believe. And so you come into this world, your soul chooses to come in at this time, and you're dealing with great things that happened in your past. And so you're building on those, and you're also dealing with the shadow stuff. Just is what it is, folks. So money is something that we all need in order to survive. Base level. So your relationship to money is super important to evaluate. So understanding that money is something that comes and goes, it's energetic, all of those things. You don't come in knowing that. You have to do a lot of work, you know, if money is important to you, or, you know, money's important to everybody. But like, if you want to be self-reflective and think about the blockages or what you have coming in around money, this would be a good time to do it. So there's all sorts of resources out there to evaluate them, to evaluate where you stand with money. I think everybody should go through that sort of exercise, but that is a great example. So the theme of money, security. So you're reckoning with that, with Pluto retrograde. And then you're, let's say, get to a good spot, or you're still kind of evaluating it. And then what is your structure around money? Are you setting yourself up in such a way to receive money, to save it, to know where it is and where it's going? Do you have debt? Do you have, are you in a really good standing? Do you have investments? Do you know where your money is going and how it's situating? That would be reevaluating the structures around money, Saturn. Then you're going to think about, how is it that I receive money? Do I feel energetically good when money comes in? Do I feel like when a client wants to pay me, I'm like, yes, I deserve this, I'm so talented? Or am I like, oh, do I really deserve that money? Or I think I need more. So think about how you receive. Are you open arms, or are you kind of closed about it? Or do you feel some type of way when you get the money that you've structured yourself up to receive? And then what do you want to create? Let's say you have excess money. Yay, you're going to put something out into the world. What do you want to put out? That's Venus. So what is it that you care about creating? What is it that you love? What is it that, how do you show your love? How do you show gifts? How do you recreate something within this time that makes sense to use your money for? Are you deciding to buy things in your life because you think they're pretty? It's not really the right thing to do. So you might evaluate like past purchases, or you might evaluate things differently as they pertain to like money and creation. So walked you through an example of how that could relate to a lot of different things with one theme and all of the retrogrades. Please, if you have any questions, I know I threw a lot at you. There's a lot in retrograde right now, so it's not my fault. But let me know, of course, if you have questions. Let me know how this lands for you. I hope that I pleased my friend who asked. But I hope to see you back here soon for another education series. Have a great night.